Hey, what's up, everyone? It's in transit here, and welcome back again for another. I don't even know if this is a tutorial or tutorial or whatever, but what I do know, I did an experiment, and my experiment was I was trying to recreate a vocal chain using nothing but my ears, right? Um, with one of my previous tracks that I've used all different types of plugins, stock plugins, in a combination with third-party plugins, right? But I was like, you know what? Let me see if I could actually recreate something that sometimes people wouldn't necessarily have the money to purchase things or whatever. So I was saying, you know what, maybe I would like to have my own internal thing where, because I have most of my plugins from different people and stuff. So I was trying to figure out, well, you know what, maybe when I really want to downsize and stuff on plugins, let me see what's my essentials, and that just led from one thing to the next, and here we are. So I I think that I've gotten close enough. And bear in mind, one of these things what I've found out through the experiment is that nothing will obviously be perfect. Every plugin will have its nuance, and and sometimes better suited because of their algorithms for certain jobs, right? So let's dive in real quick, right? So this is the song, well, the vocal anyway. It has nothing on it because I already bounced it out and everything and just pulled it back in. So, yeah, so I really wanted to check this out and see how close I could get. So let's play the vocal and see.
What's the move for the turn up? Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up. Boy, I's a man, me no talk longer. So come over. Boy, no club on the weekend. I wanna come dedicate my love. Red over. Send it.
All right. So I've pulled back in the same vocal, right? And I'm just gonna start from scratch. And yeah, so some of the music that's playing, it's not on the vocal. I've hidden a lot of tracks, just for clarity reasons, right? So I just left the lead synth or the lead block just to so that it won't get boring, right? Um,
What's the move for the turn up? Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up. Boy, I's a man, me no talk longer. So come over. Boy, no club on the weekend.
so right, so let's dive straight into it. So how I approach this, right, is that I go from general and then dive into specifics, right? So I try to get the overarching sound, final like what does this song have? Does it have more body? Does it have more top end? And I started with um, Logic's, let's see, the vintage console EQ, right? And I started to roll off from, this was this here. This could be 167 or so, right? I've chosen this, the low shelf instead of the actual low cut, is because cut is absolute, right? Like I definitely don't want this, so cut this, right? Shelf is just pull down, reduce, and then reduce from this point at a rate of this, right? That's well, I mean, actually the low cut is similar in that way that it's at a rate every, like when you see like 24 slash something per octave or whatever, it's just really saying it would it would reduce every octave. It will be at this level, at that level, right? So it's the same, similar in how the low shelf works, but not entirely, right? um Especially, so it's not, the main point is it's not absolute, the shelf versus the low cut, right? So I still really wanted some of the low presence there, so I reduced it. So let's go.
What's the move for the turn up? Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up, boy. I's a man, me no talk long longer. So come over.
And I boosted, right? I use another shelf as well to get some presence in, right? Some a little bit of cut through the mix and stuff, right? So that's where I went with that. I think I'm not too sure. Let's see. Oh no, I left this. I left this exactly where it was, and the drive is at 4, right? Right. So let's jump into the next thing now, which is the EQ. So the parametric EQ now is where I wanted to start tuning the sound or balancing the frequencies a little bit more. So um, again, we're going from broad to a little more specific. So I reduced using another shelf again. I pulled back down some and I took out some of the 200s, right? Um, and I didn't interfere with the top end yet because I just found as though it had some boxiness going on, but I still really wanted a little bit of weight, right?
What's the move? Turn up. Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up, boy. I's a man, me no talk long longer.
Right, so let's see. So that's for the first part, right? Probably when I reach to the second compressor is when it is I'll jump back over to the first vocal. All right, so let's go. All right, so for this, for the first EQ, I mean the first compressor, I really wanted to control the dynamics of the song a little bit. So I compressed using the Studio Vintage, which is equivalent to the Scarlett the red, I think. Yeah, I think it's a red from Focus, right? So yeah, so fast attack, fast release, trying to control the peaks, right? And yeah, so that's straightforward, right? Um, and then let's see.
What's the move? Turn up. Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up, boy. I's a man, me no talk long longer. So come over, boy.
So yeah, you can see how it's getting like while I'm A and B in it right there, right? You can see that it's actually pulling everything a little more centered. Everything is becoming a little more balanced as far as volume. I know people don't like to use the word volume, but in this case, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's balanced. The peaks, so everything sounds like one. Everything sounds like they belong together, right? Let's go to the compressor, another compressor now, right? This one to me is just for the glue, all right, of the words, and believe it or not, the space, right? The space of the song. What I mean by the space, sometimes the ambience in the room that you recorded with this compressor, especially like I was itching to go back in, but I was like, you know what, this is straight for Logic plugins, and I'll tell you this, like, um, it did a cool job, but to tell you the truth, my favorite, well, one of my favorite is the LA2As. So it's like the Teletronics LA2A, man. That's what I use on almost all the vocals and stuff. So when I tried to use Logic's version of it, I ain't gonna lie, I was hearing the nuances that, um, well, sorry, I was missing the nuances rather from the LA2A, right? So yeah, go check that one out. So yeah, so anyway, so this is supposed to kind of milk the sound, bring the glue out in the song of the vowels and everything. So
What's the move? Turn up. Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up, boy. I's a man, me no talk long longer. So come over, boy. No club.
all right, so let's go back into the original song and see where we at.
What's the move? Turn up. Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. Come load up, boy. I's a man, me no talk long longer. So come, boy. No club on the weekend. I wanna come dedicate my love. Red over, sending right over. You can decide if the victory.
So we almost there. We're almost there, right? So going back into the first song, right? Going back in, I've realized that I had to do some more tweaking after I balanced out the levels. Now I had to go back in and do some more tweaking as far as the frequencies are concerned. Like what are the characteristics like? So like now it's like I would call it sweetening the pot, trying to figure out what makes that sound like that, right? And at this point, I found as though the sound still had some weight to it. The vocal seemed big. It wasn't tiny. I think most people who do vocals, honestly, they just roll off a lot from the 200. Like everybody just roll off, but nobody really listening to the sound. You know what I'm saying? Like I believe that every song obviously is different, right? And the way the frequencies intermingle with other sounds and whatever you have, you could get away with things, right? And the whole point is to try to fill up the frequency spectrum and then balance it to suit more mids or suit more top end or suit more bottom end. It just depends, right? So in this, I found as though the in order for me to match it, it just was missing a lot more um, presence and not presence. Sorry, some weight and some presence at the same time, right? But what I found as though I think by using the other plugins and the other algorithms, the byproducts were giving you the weight and stuff. So now you had to come back in after the fact and add another EQ or add some distortion and stuff to try to make back up for the nuances from the other plugins, right? So yeah, so all right, I added in an EQ and took out some. I think I had a little bit of bother right here, right? I tried to bring in some speech identification with the 24s around this area here to bring out the words a little bit more. The pss, 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 pss. Right? So the diction, so it can be a little more pronounced and a little more um, chess, right? Some chess sounds, right? So let's see.
What's the move? Turn up. Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up. Boy, I's a man, me no talk long, girl. So come over. No club on the weekend. I wanna come dedicate my love. Red over, right over.
Yeah, I think I can probably just stop right there, right? It's yo. So I'm getting closer, right? I'm getting closer. It's adding that balance of it. It will be tough to hear, but it's like a subtle hum, like a subtle hum. Um, it's a subtle hum to this to what is going on in the main vocal here. I don't know if you can pick it up on that end, but it's a subtle hum around like the 200 area. So, but I know it will be 200 and then some um, other harmonics in it. But it's mainly the fundamental is like the 200 just is like it's like every time I'm saying certain words, it's humming and it's coming in. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's humming and it's adding a little bit of weight and balance to if it's too loud or if it's big, it's just there. How I could describe this vocal.
What's the move? Turn up. Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So
So
come.
I guess the word I'm looking for it has a lot of fullness to it without being boxy, you know? Well, too boxy, right? So let's go. So then after that now, we brought in the DBX, right? Well, that's what I know it as, right? Because it's an emulation of the DBX, I believe as you know, I see. Yeah, it gotta be the DBX. Anyway, so this now, so normally the DBX, the reason why I personally add on the DBX because it gives that final pristine quality of this vocal is compressed. Like I could hear it a mile away. I know what a DBX sounds like. So it just brings the vocal closer in the mix, right? It brings the vocal out a little more, it accents or accentuates what's already there. As far as it's very sensitive, so it will accentuate the top end especially and give it a nice sheen, right? However, as I said, depending on which versions and which algorithms of the DBX you get, you may get something desirable and you may not. So everything you do, everything you add to the pot right now, you gotta offset it. It's almost as though if you're cooking and you add, well, you add this special ketchup from a certain, like, yes, I cook with ketchup, right? So you add a ketchup from one brand, and because that ketchup is a little more tangy, you have to add some sugar to offset it. Whereas in the other ketchup, you could just probably just dump the ketchup because it has sweetness in it, so you don't have to add anything else after to compensate. You know what I'm saying? So that's how this process is right now. So you add something, and you probably gotta add something else to offset, right? So yeah, so to get that quality of bringing it out forward, this is what I did.
What's the move? Turn up. Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up. Boy, I's a man, me not talk long, girl. So come over. Boy, no club on the weekend. I'm give my love. Red over, red over. Right over.
Man, I can still hear. Hey, let me tell you, the so it's getting closer and it's getting closer, right? Um, but I still believe to me is that I'm hearing and I know where I would normally put the LA2A. It just has something that smooths out everything. That just it just feels like it belongs together. But for the purpose of this show tutorial or challenge, I would say, is that this is as close as I could get to the gluing of the song. I'm missing that LA2A, man. All right. So, but other than that, you could hear that it's coming a little more together now, and it's bringing it out a little bit more. Now, okay, so let's go to the tube EQ. Right. So for this, again, this now is just very small adjustments or fickle adjustments that you want to add, that the nuances that you hearing from the first vocals, right? um so with this, I still wasn't getting the weight, so that's why I added in the tube EQ, and it will add some color, right? So I didn't really want to use Logic's just normal EQ, right? I really wanted to get some color and some saturation, right? So yes, so I've brought in the vintage tube and boosted about, yeah, by about 2 dB, and around like the 200, sorry, around the 100, because after a while if you keep doing the 200, it will start to just get too much of resonance. So I boosted that, and then I also came down here and I added a little bit of the 200s again. But remember, if it is you use the vintage, you'll add more distortion and harmonic saturation and everything, because it it's not a digital kind of sound, right? um did I So yeah, I don't think I've interfered with this. I'm not too sure if this came like that. Yeah, but took away some of the brightness upon around like 17, right? I think I used, well, yeah, I fiddled with this as well, right? um because I really wanted the vocals again, the part where I'm talking, the diction, to come out a little bit more, right? So here we go.
What's the move? Turn up. Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up. Boy, I's a man, me no talk long, girl. So come over. Boy, no club on the weekend. I wanna come dedicate my love. Over, red over, sending right over. You can the victory, pushing our vibe if we your weakest desires and then some. What's the move? Turn up. Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come.
Right, and then finally, well, almost finally, right? I added a bit of parallel compression, right? Um, I could have easily done it. Like honestly, the best way to do it is on the bus, and then you could add in like what you may call it, like you could add in EQ, saturation, all this kind of stuff after the fact, and put it on a bus and then do it that way. But I was just feeling a little lazy, honestly. I was feeling a little lazy, um, so I did it this way on the same channel, and yeah, it sounds something like this. Oh, I did it because again, it's about cutting through. And this time I was thinking about how could I get it up in your face, but not here, and it's here, but it's there. A lot of vocals to me be like that. Like, how do I get it here, but not there? Or it's too far back. It has a lot of presence, but it's still too far back. Or so it's me painting this imaginary room and moving around the song with these tools. And I found as though this sound I was after had a little more body, right? A little more body, a little more fullness. Um, the only one thing I would say is just that the 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 what you call this presence obviously is much better using them third party plugs. I ain't gonna lie, it's way better because it's these people and them take their time to design these algorithms. Not saying that Logic didn't, but Logic has to deal with a whole program, and these people specify in frequencies. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
What's the move for the turn up? Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up. Boy, I's a man, me no talk long, girl. So come over. Boy, no club on the.
Just a very subtle difference, subtle or subtle, subtle difference. And finally, just to take off some edge, right? I haven't really dived in too much into the new DSLs because I never really use it because I just didn't really like how DSL 1 was. I really haven't seen anybody's review on the DSL, but because of me challenging myself to do this from scratch with just Logic plugins, um, I had to use it, or I could have used the compressor as a side chain thing, but nah, I decided I want to do it this way, so I had to pay the consequence. So let's see what it sounds like.
What's the move for the turn up? Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. So come load up. Boy, and me no talk long, girl. So come over. Boy, no club on the weekend. I wanna come here, my love. Red over. Right over. Side of the victory. Pushing our vibe if we tipsy. Your weakest desires and then some. What's the move for the turn up? Yeah. It's the end of the week with your girl, so come load up. Boy, I's a man, me longer, so come over.
So remember what I was saying, that there are certain nuances that certain plugins might bring, right? And they affect the frequency spectrum differently. So in this case, the only critique or the hardest, or if that's a word, thing that I found with this was the top end. I couldn't really get the top end exactly how I wanted, or what is present in the first vocal, simply because it's it's the nuances that the other things bring. And if it is, I try to use Logic's normal EQ. I find as though it's pretty harsh to bring up the top end. So yeah, and before I forget, the one last thing is the overdrive, because with the Audi overdrive, I found as though the plugins were it wasn't really sounding good. Let me take it out, the weight again, the weight. So here without.
What's the move for the turn up? Yeah. It's the end of the week with your thing, girl. Boy, I's a man, me no talk long, girl. So come over. Boy, no club on the weekend. I want my love. red over, sending right over. You can decide if the victory, pushing our vibe if we tipsy. Your weakest desires and then some. What's the move for the turn up?
Yeah, so anyway, that is what it sounds like with and without, and in comparison to the original. So, but I think I think it was a good experiment for the ears, good experiment to see what the limitations are. Um, trying to see how much plugins it takes, how much CPU it's going to cost you to rebuild to do something like this. So, and then you could really value or evaluate the quality of your plugins to see, well, do I really need this or do I really not need that? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so I hope that this experiment was cool and it was enjoyable to some extent. Let me know, and if you got any questions about anything, feel free to drop a comment below or email or whatever. So yeah, man. Yeah, I know I kind of sound a little sleepy, but just been working with the studio. So all right, so ciao. Hope you all have a good one, and see y'all later.